Good morning, everyone. I'm Steve Lentini, and today's live is the ongoing series about your brain is brilliant, but it's not always your friend. Why your brain's not always a friend, and simple strategies to change that. Again, I'm Steve Lentini. Steve Lentini. I got to figure out how to do this right. And you can email me, steve at stevelentini.com. You can comment during the episode in chat, and I'll answer your questions. And if you email me, I'll answer you in upcoming episodes. So today, the episode 4 of this series of 12, and there'll be a 13th summary episode weekly, every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So, the leadership skill that nobody teaches, or most often is missed by leaders because of ego. Most leadership training teaches, they're teaching strategy and planning and communication. But one skill that determines how all those work is self observation. And this is something, because of ego, most leaders miss. They spend more time in wanting to be right, micromanaging, defending, being angry. They're run by their brain, they're run by their emotions. Now, I call the brain the acorn brain, right? If we don't train our mind, it'll never become the oak tree. That's why I picked that image, right? The acorn, everyone can see by looking at it. They've seen acorns, they know its potential is to become an oak tree. However, most don't ever evolve to that. Dr. Srikomar Rao talks about it as developing a level of thinking above our thinking, the witness level or the observer level. And that's the space that leaders can be most effective. It tends to help them respond versus react. And so this ability makes for a great leader because they're separate of their thinking. It doesn't mean they don't believe that they don't believe their thinking, because sometimes our thinking is correct, it's right. But who's going to question your thinking if you don't? And many leaders, often when they're questioned as thinking, they defend it or get angry. And those are low frequency energy. RJ Spina talks about low frequency energy, emotions, and thoughts. The emotions can be the clue that you're stuck in low frequency thoughts. Gracie agrees. She's stuck in low frequency thoughts because of the cat. So when we're stuck in low frequency emotions, negative emotions, primal, David Baer calls them, in the mind hack, he calls them primal thinking. And they're emotions such as anxiety, frustration, stress, anger, sadness, the blues, depression, all of those, making others wrong, wanting to be right. Those are low frequency energies that are clues that you're stuck in low frequency energy. And that's a poor leadership skill. And one can evolve this, right? That's self-awareness. One can grow their emotional intelligence throughout their lifetime. As where their IQ might lead them to believe they're very smart, it doesn't help them because IQ doesn't grow. And there's an awful lot of very smart people who are poor leaders. They're very smart people. They have a high IQ, but they have a low emotional intelligence. And those bosses don't create cultures that are healthy. Those are leaders that create what they model. So if they're reactive and defensive and angry and frustrated all the time, or a majority of the time, that's the culture they create in their team or their company. And so the moment a leader begins to notice their internal reactions, they create space because they've noticed. And they can put a pause in and respond intentionally, right? They can respond that's more open and powerful thinking. Positive thinking, but not just positive thinking, it's powerful thinking associated with words like creative, stress-free, peaceful, open, appreciative, grateful. Those are high frequency energy thoughts. And there's neuroscience research that the more time we spend in one or the other, in either, we get a return on investment. The more time you spend on lower frequency primal thinking, you get a lower return on investment for spending time in that frequency. You get a higher return on investment when you spend more time in powerful, creative, high energy, high frequency thinking. And if you think about it, right? Let's say you're stuck in a complaint and a grievance about something or someone. That's low frequency energy if you don't express that complaint. Let's suppose you take it to your neighbor. Oh man, my team, what a team. They got a lot of work to do. They don't know how to do this or that, or here's what happened this week at the company and some of my team members of my team. You're taking it to someone who can't do anything about it. It's like you picked up dog doo in his yard and brought it inside and say, hey, I picked this up for you. It stinks. And now you left it on his desk and he can't do anything about it. And he could throw it out. But you brought it in. You could have thrown it out. And here's how you do that with a complaint and a grievance. You take it to the people or persons that can do something about it. You get it out of your head, and that helps you progress. That's a higher frequency energy because you're expressing yourself. And you're taking it to someone who can do something about it, which starts a dialogue. I suggest having an idea, even though your idea may not be selected, is to have an idea. It's even a higher frequency energy. Bringing the complaint to the person that can do something about it instead of gossiping in the cafeteria or Friday night at the watering hole or to your neighbors at the backyard barbecue, it doesn't do anything except keep you stuck in low frequency primal energy and thinking. And you're going to have a lower return on investment because whatever gets fed in a universe grows. So if you feed low frequency primal thoughts, you're going to get more of that. You got to prove it to yourself. But first you have to start noticing. You have to notice your thinking. What percent of the time are you in low frequency primal thoughts and emotions versus high frequency powerful thinking? And you can choose it once you start noticing. I've proven it to myself over the years, right? I developed the acorn brain and trademarked it because I noticed my own level of small-minded thinking and how often I was reacting instead of responding. When someone gives you feedback, a limitless, powerful thought is, hey, thanks for sharing. I'll look at that. What do you recommend? What other thoughts do you have about what I can change? No defending. Because when you say, no, that's not me. Here's what I meant that day. You're now defending, and that keeps your own good from coming to you. Low frequency, primal thinking brings a lower return on investment. So you'll stay stuck. And your team will reflect what you're modeling. You'll be encouraging defending and not being open to feedback. So leaders who are stuck in ego, defending, micromanaging, anger, anxiety, frustration, your teammates can feel that energy. They can feel it. So now, without you saying a word, let's suppose you didn't say anything. They know you're angry. Here's how I'll prove it. Did you ever walk into a room, maybe even a large event, and say, wow, you could cut the tension in that room with a knife? It's all you felt was the energy of the room. Or if you've walked in on a conversation of a group of people and all of a sudden they went quiet, they stopped talking. What do you know about that? They were talking about something involving you, or maybe even you directly. Might have been your idea. It might have been what something that's you've been championing. You've been the champion of. You've been trying to enroll a whole bunch of people in that, and you show up and they stop talking. So it wasn't about you personally, but it was about the idea or whatever you're behind, whatever idea that you're suggesting or even pushing. You can know and feel the low frequency energy versus the powerful high frequency energy. And the more time you choose to spend in that, even by choosing the people that you hang around, if you do an inventory of the 5 or 10 people that you hang around with, and you would define them as mostly complainers and negative, well, guess what? That's what you are. The people and events in life, if you are now more self-aware, you're willing to observe your thinking, and you start to question, beginning with who you surround yourself with, you'll discover that those 5 or 10 people are reflecting you back to you. If you find them all to be powerful and positive people, well, guess what? Good news. You are mostly powerful and a positive thinker. If you have complaints about half the people or more that you're hanging around, it's because you are in that energy and feeding that energy most often. And I can tell you, the majority of leaders do not look around their company and take responsibility for what's they're modeling. Hey, how am I responsible for this? That's not me. Why is this happening? Instead, the question is, what in this am I responsible for? What is my part in and accountability and responsibility for what's showing up in all my leaders? And when you start to take responsibility, hold yourself accountable, and look at everything that's occurring as a gift, that it's for you, especially those events and people that you react to and you are angry or defending, those you're defending yourself. Those people are gifts, and those events are gifts, especially the ones that are most challenging, because there's something new for you to learn. It might be that life is a gift, that it's happening for you. If you're stuck in the woe is me and why is this happening, that's not powerful. And now you're in the place of victim thinking. The reason people get stuck in victim thinking is they're most afraid of their power to create in life. Most people in this life are afraid of their power to create, so they don't take responsibility for where they're at. They're looking for, why me? Why is this happening? You got to prove this to yourself. Don't take my word for it. I wrote the book, Your Brain is Brilliant, but It's Not Always Your Friend. And that book is for people that are learning to observe their own thinking. They're learning to look at their brain, not always as a friend. It doesn't mean some of your thoughts are correct. Some are. They're all not. Here's how I know. Tomorrow, I want you, or maybe for the rest of today, go out and say every thought that occurs in your head and do everything your brain suggests. I've suggested that to people that are having a hard time getting the concept of developing the observer level, the witness level, above this small-minded thinker, what I call the acorn brain. When I tell them to go out and do everything and say everything the brain suggests, there's usually a deep pause, and then the answer, no, Steve, I couldn't do that. Okay, why not? Well, some of those thoughts are crazy. Yeah, we know the obvious ones that are crazy. We know those. There's another level of thoughts that we have to learn to question, and it's based on our emotions first. If it's anger, frustration, defensiveness, sadness, stress, those are all low frequency, primal, as David Baer calls it in his program called The Mind Hack, very similar to my work. They're low frequency energy, and you're going to get a lower return for the amount of time you spend in those thoughts. So, yes, you might not want to go out and express every thought and every suggestion the brain gives you the rest of the day or tomorrow because you know some of those thoughts are crazy. There's another level required, especially if you're a leader. Thank you for those attending. I'm grateful. There's another level of thinking for you to get so that you can be an effective leader. What behavior am I modeling? What is my behavior telegraphing to people? What am I responsible for in this? What's my accountability? What in my behavior created this, especially when it's a negative environment? Positive environment, ask yourself that too, because you created it. It's good to remind your brain when your brain says, hey, you made a mess last year. You made a mess last month. You did this and you did that. It's fascinating. Our brain does that. Here's the key about the brain. It has an advantage because it remembers every time you've fallen, every humbling and embarrassing experience, every error in judgment. And the brain flashes them before us often because it wants you to train it. That's the gift in that, because everything in life is a gift. It's happening for you. It's happening for you. And when you can get into that space that life is for me, you begin to get that the most difficult and challenging events and people are the greatest gifts. Why? Because they're urging you to change and find how you created that. I have good news for you. If you created a mess, if you're currently in a mess, that same power can create whatever it is you want. It just has to be tweaked. It's got to be changed. Something you did created the mess. Well, good news is something new you do will create something different. And the reason most people get stuck in what I call their victim mentality, that life is happening to them, not for them, the reason is we're afraid of the power we have. We'd rather be a victim. You want to hear what happened to me last week? You want to hear what my boss did? You know how many people will listen and say, oh, you poor thing. And then they'll say, now wait till you hear what happened to me. Because there's a big segment of our society and throughout the world where people would prefer to remain powerless. They want somebody else to rescue them. They just want to go through life unscathed. That's fine. I doubt it'll happen. They will not come through life unscathed. Well, if you're not going to come through life unscathed, even if you decide you're going to stay in the victim and tale of woe, why not move into the powerful high frequency energy and decide you're going to change your life no matter what, and look at everything that occurs as a gift. 23 years ago, I was doing a seminar. 1 second I was fine. The next second, life hit me with a 2x4. God hit me with a 2x4. I needed an ambulance. And you know what? I was grateful, waiting for the ambulance. And I don't know where that came from initially. I was studying the power of gratitude, but people were frantic saying, Steve, we called the ambulance. Are you okay? What's going on? I said, I don't know how my body's doing, and I'm grateful. I was totally surrendered to whatever occurred. Didn't matter if I lived or died. That a thought never occurred to me. When the ambulance came, the EMTs asked me the same question. Mr. Lentini, how are you doing? I gave him the same answer. I don't know how my body's doing, and I'm grateful. And little did I know it was going to turn into 100 days in the hospital and 6 months out of work. And I can tell you on the 5th day, I flatlined and I saw the other side. I saw what awaits us. But that's when I realized life is for me. It's a gift. And that moment that seemed very difficult, right? That all of a sudden I needed an ambulance. And again, it was 100 days in the hospital, not straight, 60 days straight, 40 out of the next 60, and 6 months out of work. It turned into the greatest gift because it led to my work. That was life giving me a whack with a 2x4, or God, right? It led to all the books I've written. It led to No BS Coaching. Here, I'll show you the books. No BS Coaching. Wake up from the BS you tell yourself. We all tell ourselves BS stories, and we gather evidence to prove they're true. As Dr. James Doty says, despite any evidence to the contrary, he said, look at your brain as a file system and a bloodhound. And this is what leaders need to do, is to begin to question what they put in the file system. That's what Dr. James Doty talks about in his book, Mind Magic. He said, so if your brain is simple, your subconscious is a file system and a bloodhound, whatever you put in the file system, the bloodhound goes to look for evidence of, despite any evidence to the contrary. Scientists call that confirmation bias. So after I wrote the No BS Coaching book, I wrote How to Train Your Mind, written by a dragon. Program your mind for success. I took license with Written by a Dragon because I'm born in the year of the dragon. And then I wrote Your Brain is Brilliant, but It's Not Always Your Friend, which is what we're talking about today, to develop a level of thinking above our thinking. That's how we catch it. And that's why the brain is reminding you of every time you fell, or constantly reminding you that you're not good enough, or you're beneath others, or you could never write a book, or you could never have your own business, or you'll never get out of this dumb job, or stop working for this dumb boss. It's urging you to train it. No, I'm in charge. Dr. Daniel Amen says, name it, like I call it the acorn brain. He calls his brain Little Hermie. He named it after a rambunctious pet raccoon he owned as a teenager, right? So his brain is a rambunctious, troublesome pet raccoon in his mind, but he talks to it as well. He suggests talking to it in the third person by the name that you give it. Now, I suggest don't talk to it at the shopping mall or at the restaurant or at the breakfast place in the morning. Don't talk to it out loud. Make sure you spend time reprogramming your mind, right? That you can train your mind. Now, based on my near-death experience, I wrote You Missed God on the way to the mosque, the temple, or the church. How to see God everywhere. That's looking at life as a gift. Whatever you call God, I urge my leaders that I work with to have a higher power. That's the first thing I ask them. Do you have a higher power? Whatever you call it. Because that's where we can begin to recognize that higher power is never absent. When I passed on the 5th day from 2 friends at the end of my bed in intensive care, and the next second, I was one with everything and nothing, one with the infinite, immense light, mercy, grace. Without going into all the details, I can tell you there was no past or future. There was only the now. And I didn't realize that till I got back in my body 20 minutes later, or at least when I regained consciousness and the same 2 friends were at the end of my bed. There was no past or future in what I call home or pure consciousness or God. God is in the now. And that's what woke me up to life is a gift. It's happening for me. I won't go into what I was struggling with at the time, but I can tell you I was fighting life. As Eckhart Tolle says, when you fight life, life fights you. But you got to prove that to yourself. And as a leader, if you're fighting for a result, you're struggling to get a result in your company, you're wondering why the team is not performing to their ultimate, powerful, high energy frequency, it's because you're leading them that way. You have to take accountability for it and look at the gift in that struggle. There's a gift. Actually, if you're the CEO or the leader, it's there for you to change. That's the gift in the struggle. What can I do differently? What can I learn from this? How can I grow? What can I do differently? What new path can I take? Those are positive, high energy, powerful thoughts versus primal, negative, low frequency energy thoughts and emotions. And those emotions are anger, frustration, stress, sadness, disappointment. compared to powerful thinking, which is creative, stress-free, peaceful, grateful, right? To be looking at life as a gift. That's a powerful thought. But you got to prove this to yourself. Don't take my word for it. Another book and a series I wrote a few years ago was You Might Be Full of Shit If. And the next week, because Amazon wouldn't advertise it, they published it. I wrote You Might Be Full of Number Two, After All We Know Better, the woke edition. And I don't poke fun at anyone in either of those books. What I poke fun is believing our thinking, not to follow anything or anyone blindly. And when you think you're right and you're making others around you wrong, or you're spending time railing against people at social media, you are in low frequency energy, and you're going to get more low frequency energy in your life. What gets fed grows in a universe. I don't care if it's an atom. The most subatomic particles that we are still discovering, by the way, we're discovering new levels of subatomic particles. They feed and grow if the conditions are right. It's the same for humans. Whatever we feed grows. If you're focusing on low frequency, negative complaints, grievances, tale of woe, why is this happening to me? That is going to get you more of that to complain about. So when you switch into high frequency, powerful thinking, you're going to get more of that in your life. And it begins with you noticing and you deciding to spend more time in the creative thoughts, the peaceful thoughts, the grateful thoughts, the peaceful and thoughts of appreciating people around you, helping your team win, not making others wrong. Those are all powerful thoughts. It's up to you. It's up to you. That's the beauty of this life. Right? You can look at life as a gift, or you can look at life as a battle. It's up to you. All right, episode 5 next week is going to be the acorn brain versus the dragon mind. We're going to go into more detail about the low frequency energy versus the high frequency energy, how to identify them by what you're feeling, what your emotions are, what you're sensing about a situation. And, have you ever gone into a room and said, wow, I could cut the tension in here with a knife? You can feel the energy. And whatever energy you're in, others can feel it. So if you're in low frequency, negative thinking, primal thinking, as David Baer says, people can feel it. You don't have to say a word, and your team can sense your negative energy, your low frequency, primal thinking. So we're going to talk about those two, the negative primal thinking and emotions versus the powerful high frequency energy and those emotions, so that when you identify them and feel them in your body, you'll switch. You will be able to switch. Again, you got to prove it to yourself. Don't take my word for it. Because once you prove it to yourself, you own it. That's part of the gift of life. When you start to look at what happens to you as a gift, why, instead of why is this occurring, is what is this here to teach me? What can I learn from this? What can I do differently? What new action can I take? How can I change as an individual? Those are powerful thoughts that actually reprogram your mind and get you out of the victim and tale of woe. The gossiping to neighbors or friends or in the cafeteria about coworkers. There's something there you need to share with people. But most people don't have the courage. They'd rather tell people who can't do anything about it. Instead of taking the complaint to the person you are now talking about in the cafeteria, you go to them. You go to the boss. You say, I got an idea and I have a complaint. Here's what stimulated the idea. Here's what I think we need to do. Here's my complaint. This isn't what's working, in my opinion. The key to that is to let go of the outcome you expect from the person you're delivering it to. Just let them be in the space to hear it. Hear it. So It's up to you to create the life that you want. You have the power to do it, especially if you've created a mess or you're currently going through a challenge that you haven't experienced before. That's life coming to your door to wake you up, to change, not to complain about it on Friday night to your friends or at the barbecue. You can complain about it if you want. It's low frequency, primal thinking, unless you take it to the people that can do something about it. And humans love to gossip. It's okay. It's human. But if you're gossiping about things that you can change, you've got to go to the person or people that can do something about it. Take it somewhere. It doesn't mean you'll get your way, that your idea will be accepted, but if you're open and detached from expecting someone to have your outcome, so you're open for a dialogue, as a leader, that creates an amazing space on your team. People will be more willing to step forward. They'll recognize the powerful energy coming from you and that you're welcoming. You're welcoming feedback, new ideas, constructive criticism, because you're curious. Okay, what makes you say that? That's interesting. Okay, I'll take a look at it. Tell me more. You're inviting it. That's inviting life, by the way. And inviting life can be inviting God, inviting the moment, being in the now, because whatever comes to you was meant for you. Christ said everything works together for good. Muhammad said what reaches you was never meant to miss you, and what misses you was never meant to reach you. That's all about life as a gift. And to look at life that way, whatever faith you have your higher power guide you, because it's never absent in my experience. It's always present in the now. The now is where the creator of the universe, whatever you define that as, is present in the now. And if something shows up that really bothers you, the greatest gift is there when you can figure out what is it there for you to learn. What's something new you have to do instead of crying, oh, you want to hear what happened to me? Get off the victim story, because the other side of that is your power to create. Send me questions, email me, steve@stevelentini.com. Here, I'll show you. Your brain is brilliant. This series is based on this book. Steve, let's go over here. Steve@stevelentini.com. You can go to stevelentiniauthor.com to see all my books. But if you want to email me or you have a question for me, I'll address it on the next episode of this, which is Friday, every Friday at 10 for 9 more weeks. And then I'll still do another episode every Friday on a similar vein, talking about looking at life as a gift and taking responsibility for whatever shows up and finding that life is there for you, helping you. Remember the Eckhart Tolle quote that I mentioned earlier. When you fight life, life fights you. So if you're fighting life right now, if you're angry, frustrated, stressed, disappointed, sad, all of those things are keeping you from your greater good. But you got to prove that to yourself. I suggest gratitude and surrender to the moment. That's what worked for me 23 years ago and saved my life. I have over 8,500 extra days since November 18th, 2002. Do the math. Extra days. I could have died that day. I didn't. And I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful that you stopped by. Thank you for watching. See you next week. Good Lord willing. Thank you.